Hey, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Real Writers Podcast, and as always, thanks for listening. I'm trying something a little different with this episode. At the beginning of October, I travelled to Toronto to attend TMFF, the Motorcycle Film Festival. This episode is based on my trip. And I just want to say, it's not a permanent change of format. I just wanted to challenge myself a bit. Regular service will return with the next episode, I promise. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy today's episode.
I came late into motorcycling. I've been a car guy most of my life. And when I made the decision that I would like to purchase a motorcycle, it was in the middle of winter. And the only thing that I could do at that time was to get information by searching online. Stumbled across some videos on YouTube, and in particular, this one filmmaker in Australia who had a series called Stories of Bike, which was just fantastic. It wasn't really about the motorcycles. I mean, yes, there were motorcycles and there were beautiful roads that they rode them on, but it was about the stories of the person and their connection with the motorcycle. And I fell in love with those little shorts. And through that, I discovered that there was a motorcycle film festival in New York. And I thought, that's fantastic. I would love to go to that. I love the arts. And I've been to other film festivals, and I thought this idea of a motorcycle film festival sounded fantastic. Unfortunately, that event no longer existed. And there wasn't such a thing in Toronto. And fast forward 3 years, I couldn't shake that idea out of my head. And I thought, well, I'm just going to put one together. And that's really how it started.
That was the voice of Caius Tenche, founder and director of TMFF, the Motorcycle Film Festival, a Toronto-based film festival that celebrates the culture of motorcycles and motorcycling. The festival was first held in 2017 and has been an annual event ever since. The 2024 edition was held on the 4th and 5th of October at the Paradise Theatre in Toronto, Canada. And in the coming months, the festival will go on the road, touring the festival's award-winning films, plus other selected films, to a number of cities in North America.
The idea of a motorcycle film festival, even though it's been around for some time, is still new to a lot of people. It's very niche, and even filmmakers that produce this type of content, they may not know that such a thing exists as a motorcycle film festival. And so sometimes the work that they produce it for its commercial work. They may not even submit it to film festivals, or if they do, they're not sure where their audience is specifically. And so when they discover that this thing called the Motorcycle Film Festival exists, and it's like that's their bullseye target audience. Like who better to see that movie that they produce? So I think it's a great thing that we can provide that audience for them that's so focused.
I first became aware of TMFF through my listening of Bruce Phillips' podcast, This Motorcycle Life. Bruce had interviewed Caius for episode 4 of his podcast in June 2017. And then went on to moderate a panel at the first TMFF held in September of that year. I'd like to mention that it was with the kind assistance of Bruce that I was able to connect with Caius and arrange to interview him myself during this year's festival in Toronto. I've had an awareness of TMFF and the existence of other similar film festivals for a while now, but I've often wondered, why do we have film festivals that are dedicated to the culture of motorcycling? To an outside observer, motorcycling might appear a relatively niche sport or pastime?
There are film festivals that cater to niche markets as well. So there's like a mountain climbing festival, there's skiing film festival, there's a cat film festival. There is such a thing. There is a bicycle film festival, rock climbing film festival. So they exist out there. The beauty of being able to niche down so specifically is that the audience that comes to that are deeply connected to that topic, whether it's motorcycling or bicycling or rock climbing. They love it. They're 100% passionate about it. And so when they get to see films that extols that passion that they can relate to, it's a completely different experience, I think, than just watching another story that you may or may not be able to connect with as deeply.
Given that motorcycling is a relatively niche activity, at least in the developed world, where it is relied upon less as a means of transportation than, say, in the developing world, does this mean there's a challenge to find content for the festival?
When the festival first began, it required me to go out and search for movies. And so reach out to filmmakers, scan the internet, scan social media, find stuff that I thought might fit. And I would reach out to the filmmakers, and reception was always great. Now, there are still some times where I come across something that's really interesting, like Motorcycle Mary, and I reached out to them, to the filmmaker, to see if they would submit it. But for the most part, the festival is known internationally now, and filmmakers reach out to us and submit their film.
Festivals like TMFF rely on there being sufficient interest in the filmmaking community to create compelling films about motorcycling. I think it's an obvious question to ask whether enough films about motorcycling culture are being created to sustain festivals like TMFF.
There definitely is some concern. Ultimately, the filmmakers, it's a costly endeavor for them to produce a movie, especially one that's of really good quality. Some of them do it as a passion project, but ultimately they still need to bring in money to pay the rent and buy food and provide for their families. So the movies that are being produced sometimes change. So, I mean, I've noticed changes over the year where we get maybe a lot more commercial focused type films that are sponsored by brands, which can still be great. If the storytelling is there, then that's okay. Then I'm grateful for GoPro for enabling that filmmaker to make those stories, as an example. But yeah, I think it can be difficult for filmmakers to find the funding that they need to make the stories that they want. When the filmmaker, when they create a movie, they either want to tell a story or somebody else has asked them to tell the story, where they're the director of it. What do you do with that afterwards? What's their goal? Like, do they hope that it gets picked up by Netflix or by some major studio? Like, where is the payback from that? And that is very difficult. It's difficult for non-motorcycle films, just for regular films. But when it's such a niche audience, I think it becomes even more difficult. And so the market moves the directors in the way that it needs to, and they need to respond to that. So it's difficult. I've always wondered when the tap will run dry for the types of films that we curate at the film festival. And so far, it's been okay. So I'm hopeful that it will still continue.
This year's festival was held across 2 nights, the 4th and 5th of October, in a new venue for the festival, the Paradise Theatre. The theatre began life in 1910 as the Bloor Palace, but became the Paradise in 1937 and existed until 2006 when it was closed, with a plan to transform it into a pharmacy. That plan was shelved, and the theatre was actually restored and opened again in 2019. The building's distinct Art Deco style has been retained, and these days it's a multi-arts venue hosting live shows as well as showing films. The festival program was spread across the 2 nights, with 2 showings held each night. In total, 15 films were shown, arranged into the following 4 themes to match the 4 showings: Pursuing Passion Through Riding, Resilient Journeys on 2 Wheels, Bonded by Adventure and Challenge, and finally, Discovering Self on the Open Road. At the conclusion of each of these 4 themed showings, the film's directors, if present, were invited on stage and took questions from the audience. At the end of the festival, after the last showing on the second night, a brief awards ceremony was held, with prizes given out for the following categories: Best Feature Film, Best Short Film, Best Canadian Film, and the People's Choice Award. One of the reasons I was keen to experience TMFF was to compare the type and quality of films selected for the festival with the content I typically find on YouTube. To date, all my guests on Real Riders have had a presence on YouTube. It's where I found and watched their work. YouTube offers a means of distribution which is effectively free, something that was inconceivable before the era of YouTube and only available to a select few. I had wondered if festivals, specifically the judging panels, turned their noses up at YouTubers and instead favoured more traditional filmmakers. Are YouTubers submitting their work to festivals like TMFF? And if they are not, should they be?
Absolutely. Let's go back to Stories of Bike. That was a YouTube-focused distribution channel, or they leveraged YouTube to distribute their shorts. I mean, that's the best way to reach the largest number of audience, isn't it? And like you said, it's free. So why wouldn't you leverage that? They should leverage that. But the quality was just as good as anything that you would get from a theatrical production house, I would say. And we featured some of those movies that were produced not for YouTube initially, but for a film festival, and then later they went on to YouTube. Another great channel that I loved was called Moto Geo. Jamie Robinson, he also did a lot of like adventure rides that were initially created for YouTube, fantastic storytelling, and later he created something that we showed theatrically. One of the filmmakers that's with us this year, Rosie Gabrielle, she has a YouTube channel with almost 750,000 followers, subscribers. And she publishes content a lot. And she's tried to produce, or has produced, a short that was somewhat scripted rather than a typical vlog that she submitted to the festival. So going back to what I said earlier, which is that maybe filmmakers just don't know that this sort of a festival exists that's so niche, and so they may think that YouTube is the only avenue. It's still like the best way to reach the largest number of people, for sure. But when I was speaking with Rosie just yesterday, she was telling me how excited she is that she'll get to experience and see the audience reaction in real time while they're watching her film, which is something that when she pushes a new upload to YouTube, she gets the likes, but she doesn't see or can understand how the audience is feeling watching their movies. But now she's excited to see that when we're playing her movie today.
And when a YouTuber submits their work to a festival like TMFF, they can be sure that it's going to be watched and given serious consideration, not something that you necessarily associate with the internet's keyboard warrior crowd.
Absolutely. We take all the submissions very seriously. Every year we get anywhere from, let's say, 40 to 60 films submitted to the film festival. And we look at all of them, and our panel of judges goes through all of them. And we have about 8 to 10 different criteria that we look at. And we make the selections, like we take our time to really curate what we're going to present to the audience. So if you've made it into the film festival, that's fantastic. I mean, we're also limited by the amount of time that we have available at the theater, so we can't accept everything. But even if we could, we want to be very discerning about the type of content that we're going to be showing and promoting to our audience. We want it to be the best that's available at that year.
And what about the quality of those 40 to 60 submissions?
It changes from year to year. I would say that overall, if I would plot a trend line, I think that the level is definitely increasing. But some years we have some better films than other years. I think that's normal for anything. In even just regular theatrical releases, you get some great years and some not so great years. I'm a very safe and cautious rider. I'll start with that, which is interesting because in a car, I feel way more in control than I do on a motorcycle. I also have some experience in racing cars at the amateur level, and so I've always felt very comfortable. If the back end of the car steps out or whatever, I can manage it and I could be in control. On a motorcycle, I feel much more exposed, more cautious, and I'm a safe driver, safe rider. I love taking trips by myself, like going out for rides by myself. I do enjoy going on group rides, but I much more prefer just going out on my own, getting into nature, listening to some music at the time, and just sort of losing myself in the moment. So far, it's only been on-road, but the interest for off-road is definitely there. Like, I love mountain biking, and so I know that if I were to try off-road motorcycling, I know I'll love it. There's no doubt. I've only had 2 bikes. I'm on my second bike. I currently have a 2018 Harley-Davidson Fat Bob, which I absolutely love. I purchased it in 2018, and still it puts a smile on my face to this day. It just feels and fits me perfectly. I love mechanical things. I like how motorcycles look. I like how engines sound. I like the aesthetics of all of it. I like the act of getting dressed up with your leather jacket and putting on your helmet. I like how other people look at me when I'm on my motorcycle. I like how every time when a family with a young child and I'm stopped at a red light and they're crossing the street, the child always looks, always, every time. So there's a little bit of that wonder that is in the child, and I think, I don't know, it makes you feel good. I wave at them, smile. I love riding because it's a way to clear my head sometimes, or just let my thoughts flow out. I'm a runner as well, and so I find running very therapeutic in that way. And motorcycling is sort of similar to that. Is when I'm out riding, like, yes, I'm paying attention obviously to what I'm doing, but it's like you're on a different plane in some way, and it's therapeutic in that way. I like it for all of those reasons. I said I am a runner, but I was a runner. I used to run a lot. Yeah, it takes a few minutes, and then your body says, okay, this is what we're doing, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, it's like you go into this cruise mode where I've often had the experience where I felt like it was like an out-of-body experience where like your brain is there, but your legs are just sort of like moving automatically underneath you. And you're not fatigued, your breathing seems very calm and relaxed, and you're just moving through space. And so I never thought about it, but you're right. Motorcycling is exactly like that. Takes a little while once you get going, and then all of a sudden you're free.
Toronto's TMFF is not the only motorcycle film festival. Some exist purely online, but there are others, like TMFF, which are very much based in the physical world.
Myself and the folks that run the Lisbon Motorcycle Film Festival, folks that run the Portland Motorcycle Film Festival, and there used to be a French Riviera or Nice Motorcycle Film Festival. We all talk all the time. We're good friends, or we've become friends as a result. And I've been to Lisbon to their festival. It's fantastic. Beautiful theater, beautiful location, great hosts, great community. I've been to the Portland Festival. They've come and visited us as well. Great group of people, again, wonderful audience over there. And yeah, we stay in touch with each other, and sometimes like we share filmmaker information or contacts. So, I might reach out to Rodrigo and say, in Lisbon, and say, this movie was fantastic. You absolutely need to include this in your festival next year, or vice versa. In the last couple of years, we've started to branch out of Toronto, and so we've put the festival up in other cities, and we're going to be going to Calgary in a few weeks, and then in the spring we'll be in Victoria, BC, and Vancouver. I would love to continue to do that because there's motorcyclists everywhere, and part of the thrill is sharing these stories with the audiences and getting their reaction to it. That's sort of what feeds me and keeps me going. And so I'd love to continue to expand and get these stories out to more and more people. And we were able to do that online, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing online as it is going to a theater and seeing it. There's something special about going to a theater to see a movie. We've been asked in the past to show some of the movies in other locations. Maybe there's a pull-down screen or fold seating. It's not the same thing. It doesn't work. You have to be in the right venue for it with the right people, and there's like energy in the air. So I'd like to do that more and bring the festival to more people.
I'd like to thank Caius for being so generous with his valuable time during this year's festival. If you're interested in finding out more about the festival, or checking if the travelling festival may be coming to a city near you, please visit the festival's website, www.motorcyclefilmfest.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. You can also watch trailers for most of the films shown at this year's festival on the festival's website. I've been Simon Josie. Thank you for listening, and ride safe.